Hey there, friends. Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're settling in for a cozy journey through one of pop culture's most fascinating narratives, the romantic timeline of Taylor Swift. Now, before anyone reaches for the comment section, this isn't about gossip or speculation. This is about tracing the path of an artist who turned her personal experiences into a soundtrack for millions of people navigating their own messy, beautiful, complicated love stories. So grab your favorite beverage, get comfortable, and let's take our time walking through the years. Because if there's one thing we know about Taylor's story, it's that the details matter. The early days. Let's rewind to the mid-2000s. Picture a teenage Taylor Swift, fresh in Nashville, guitar in hand, writing songs about the universal experience of young love. Her early relationships were the kind that felt monumental at the time, the way everything does when you're 16 and the world is enormous and terrifying and full of possibility. There was Joe Jonas in 2008. Their brief connection became immortalized in music history, not because it was particularly dramatic, but because of how it ended. That 27-second phone call became the stuff of legend. Taylor mentioned it on Ellen's show with the kind of candor that would become her signature move, turning personal pain into public art, but doing it with enough wit that you couldn't help but appreciate the honesty. The thing about this era is that Taylor was learning something crucial. She was discovering that her ability to capture specific moments, specific feelings, specific hurts could resonate with people who'd never met Joe Jonas or sat on that back porch or experienced that exact heartbreak. The specificity was the point. The details were the magic. Then came Taylor Lautner in 2009. Yes, another Taylor. The universe has a sense of humor like that. By all accounts, this one was sweet while it lasted. They met on the set of Valentine's Day, which is almost too on the nose to be real. When it ended, she wrote Back to December, a song that did something unusual. It took responsibility. It said, maybe this one was on me. Maybe I was the one who walked away from something good. That kind of self-reflection in pop music, especially from a young artist at the height of her career, that was noteworthy. It showed artistic maturity beyond her years. The intensity years. As we move into the early 2010s, the relationships got more public, more scrutinized, more dissected by tabloids and Twitter alike. John Mayer entered the picture in 2009 to 2010. The age difference raised eyebrows then, and it raises eyebrows now. When Dear John arrived on the Speak Now album, it was clear this relationship had left marks. The song is devastating in its vulnerability. It speaks to feeling small, feeling manipulated, feeling like you were playing a game where you didn't know the rules and the other person did. She was 20 when they met, he was 32. Sometimes the math tells you everything you need to know. Jake Gyllenhaal came next in late 2010, 3 months that somehow contained enough material for what would eventually become some of her most gut-wrenching work. If you've listened to the 10-minute version of All Too Well, you know exactly what I'm talking about. That scarf became more famous than some people's entire wardrobes. The age gap thing appeared here again, him nearly a decade older, and the power dynamics in these situations always bear mentioning. What made this relationship particularly significant in Taylor's artistic development was the way she returned to it years later as a more mature artist. The extended version of All Too Well showed us how memory works, how we carry these formative experiences with us, how the story changes as we change, but the feelings remain sharp as glass. Then there was the Kennedy connection. Connor Kennedy, summer of 2012. She bought a house near the Kennedy compound in Hyannisport. It was brief, it was intense in that summer romance way, and it gave us glimpses into what it might feel like to date into American dynasty royalty. Even for someone as famous as Taylor, that world was different. The pop transformation era. Harry Styles, late 2012 to early 2013. If you were alive and had access to the internet during this period, you remember the media frenzy. One Direction was at their peak. Taylor was transitioning from country darling to pop powerhouse. Together, they were tabloid catnip. The paparazzi photos from their brief time together have an almost vintage quality now. There they are in Central Park. There they are on that ski trip, young and photogenic and seemingly unaware that every moment was being cataloged for posterity. The relationship ended messy, as young love often does. The paper airplane necklace became a symbol. The songs that followed, Style and Out of the Woods among them, captured something achingly specific, the feeling of being with someone where the chemistry is undeniable, but the timing is all wrong. Here's where Taylor's storytelling reached new heights. She can now write about anxiety, about wondering if a relationship would survive its own intensity, about the difference between passion and sustainability. These were more sophisticated questions than, does he like me back? Calvin Harris represented something different when they got together in 2015. A year and a half. By Taylor Swift relationship standards, that's practically a marriage. This was adult dating. This was bringing someone to family events and building a life with schedules and careers and actual stability. They seemed, for a while, genuinely happy. When it ended in 2016, it was messy. There was back and forth on social media, there were deleted posts and cryptic tweets, there was the whole thing about song credits and who wrote what and when. It showed that even grown-up relationships can end in very not grown-up ways. Tom Hiddleston arrived immediately after in what might be the most whirlwind romance of Taylor's timeline: 3 months, the I Heart TS tank top, the Meet the Parents speed run, the 4th of July gathering that broke the internet. It all felt somehow both completely genuine and also utterly surreal when you look back on them. Sometimes relationships are like that, intense and real and also kind of absurd when you look back on them. Then came Joe Alwyn. 6 years. Most of it private. Most of it lived away from the cameras and the commentary and the constant speculation. They met in 2016, right as Taylor was navigating one of the most difficult periods of her public life. This relationship was different because Taylor made it different. She protected it fiercely. She wrote about it, of course, because that's what she does, but she wrote about it without revealing everything. Albums like Lover, Folklore, and Evermore contain songs about long-term love, about domesticity, about building something quiet and real. Joe even co-wrote songs with her under the pseudonym William Bowery. They created art together. They built a life together, mostly in London, mostly out of sight. When it ended in early 2023, it was announced quietly, and even the breakup was handled with maturity and respect. Which brings us to Travis Kelce, starting in 2023, a professional athlete, someone who exists in his own stratosphere of fame, someone who seems genuinely unbothered by the attention, who shows up to her concerts and wears friendship bracelets and doesn't seem to mind that 70,000 people are watching him watch her perform. This relationship is unfolding in real time, with all the joy and chaos that entails. The NFL cameras cutting to him during games, the joint appearances, the way they both seem delighted by each other in a way that's actually refreshing to witness. So what do we take away from all of this? Taylor Swift's romantic timeline isn't just a list of names and dates. It's a chronicle of growing up in public, of learning what you need and what you don't, of making mistakes and turning them into art that helps other people process their own mistakes. She's been criticized for writing about her relationships, but here's the thing, that's literally what songwriters do. They write about their lives. The difference is that Taylor does it with surgical precision and emotional honesty that makes millions of people feel seen. Every relationship taught her something. Every ending gave us music that became the soundtrack to someone else's heartbreak or healing. And maybe that's the real story here. Not who she dated, but how she transformed those experiences into something universal. Thanks for taking this journey with me. If you enjoyed this video, you know what to do. And remember, be kind to yourself and others. Love is complicated, growth is messy, and sometimes the best thing we can do is tell our stories honestly. See you next time.